Hare Krishna. Please join me with folded hands for the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, entitled Scheduled Incarnations, and we are going to continue reading from purport to text 9. According to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, the pious and learned Brahmanas were the natural guardians of society. The Brahmanas, by their learned labor of love, would instruct the administrator kings how to rule the country in complete righteousness, and thus the process would go on as a perfect welfare state. The kings or the Kshatriya administrators would always consult the council of learned Brahmanas. They were never autocratic monarchs. The scriptures like Manu Samhita and other authorized books of the great sages were guiding principles for ruling the subjects, and there was no need for less intelligent persons to manufacture a code of law in the name of democracy. The less intelligent mass of people have very little knowledge of their own welfare, as a child has very little knowledge of its future well-being. The experienced father guides the innocent child towards the path of progress, and the childlike mass of people need similar guidance. The standard welfare codes are already there in the Manu Samhita and other Vedic literatures. The learned Brahmanas would advise the king in terms of those standard books of knowledge and with reference to the particular situation of time and place. Such Brahmanas were not paid servants of the king, and therefore they had the strength to dictate to the king on the principles of scriptures. This system continued even up to the time of Maharaj Chandragupta, and the Brahmana Chanakya was his unpaid prime minister. Maharaja Vena did not adhere to this principle of ruling, and he disobeyed the learned Brahmanas. The broad-minded Brahmanas were not self-interested but looked to the interest of complete welfare of all the subjects. They wanted to chastise King Vena for his misconduct and so prayed to the Almighty Lord as well as cursed the king. Long life, obedience, good reputation, righteousness, prospects of being promoted to higher planets, and blessings of great personalities are all vanquished simply by disobedience to a great soul. One should strictly try to follow in the footsteps of great souls. Maharaja Vena became a king undoubtedly due to his past deeds of righteousness, but because he willfully neglected the great souls, he was punished by the loss of all the above mentioned acquisitions. In the Vamana Purana, the history of Maharaja Vena and his degradation are fully described. When Maharaja Prithu heard about the hellish condition of his father, Vena, who was suffering from leprosy in the family of a Mlecha, he at once brought the former king to Kurukshetra for his purification and relieved him of all sufferings. Maharaja Prithu, the incarnation of God, descended by the prayer of the Brahmanas to rectify the disorders of earth. He produced all kinds of crops, but at the same time he performed the duty of a son who delivers his father from hellish conditions. The word Putra means one who delivers from hell, called Put. That is a worthy son. Text 10. Nabhera savrishabha asa sudevi suno visunuryo vaichachara samadrag jadayoga charyam yatapara mahamsya mrushayah padma mananti swastha prashanta karanaha parimukta sangaha. Translation. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabhi, and was known as Rishabha Deva. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in one's self and is completely satisfied. Purport: out of many types of mystic performances for self-realization, the process of Jada Yoga is also one accepted by authorities. This Jada Yoga involves practicing becoming like a dumb stone and not being affected by material reactions. Just as a stone is indifferent to all kinds of attacks and re-attacks of external situations, similarly one practices Jada Yoga by tolerating voluntary infliction of pain upon the material body. Such yogis, out of many self-infliction methods, practice plucking out the hairs on their heads without shaving and without any instrumental help. But the real purpose of such Jada Yoga practice is to get free from all material affection and to be completely situated in the self. At the last stage of his life, Emperor Rishabhadev wandered like a dumb madman, unaffected by all kinds of bodily mistreatment. Seeing him like a madman, wandering naked with long hair and a long beard, less intelligent children and men in the street used to spit on him and urinate on his body. He used to lie in his own stool and never move, but the stool of his body was fragrant like the smell of fragrant flowers, and a saintly person would recognize him as a Paramahamsa, one in the highest state of human perfection. One who is not able to make his stool fragrant should not, however, imitate Emperor Rishabhadev. The practice of Jada Yoga was possible for Rishabhadev and others on the same level of perfection, but such an uncommon practice is impossible for an ordinary man. The real purpose of Jada Yoga as mentioned here in this verse is Prashanta Karanaha, or subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga, under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. In this age, specifically, this Jada Yoga cannot be of any practical value, but on the other hand, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is feasible because it is just suitable for this age. The simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Rishabhadev was the son of King Nabhi and the grandson of King Agnidhra, and he was the father of King Bharata, after whose name this planet Earth was called Bharatavarsha. Rishabhadeva's mother was also known as Meru Devi, although her name is mentioned here as Sudevi. It is sometimes proposed that Sudevi was another wife of King Nabhi, but since King Rishabhadeva is mentioned elsewhere as the son of Meru Devi, it is clear that Meru Devi and Sudevi are the same person under different names. Text 11. Satre mamas bhagavan hayashir shatho sakshat sa yagya purushast niyavarnaha chandomayo makhamayo khil devatatma vacho babhu virushati shvasatosya nastaha. Translation: The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, that is Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices and hue of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well and the super soul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils. Purport: The Vedic hymns are generally meant for sacrifices performed by fruitive workers who also want to satisfy the demigods to achieve their fruitive result. But the Lord is the personified sacrifices and personified Vedic hymns. Therefore, one who is directly a devotee of the Lord is a person who has automatically both served the purpose of sacrifices and pleased the demigods. The devotees of the Lord may not perform any sacrifice or may not please the demigods as per Vedic injunctions, and still the devotees are on a higher level than the fruitive workers or the worshippers of different demigods. Text 12. Matsayo yuganta samaye manunopalabdhaha kshoni mayo nikhil jiva nikaya ketaha vastram sitanurubhaye salile mukhanme adaya tatra vijaharah vedamargan. Translation. At the end of the millennium, the would-be Vaivasvata Manu of the name Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living beings, living entities up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my, that is Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas. Purport. During one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, and at the end of each Manu, there is a devastation up to the earthly planets, and the vast water is fearful even to Brahma. So, in the beginning of the would-be Vaivasvata Manu, such devastation would be seen by him. There would be many other incidents also, such as the killing of the famous Shankasura. This foretelling is by the past experience of Brahmaji, who knew that in that fearful, devastating scene, the Vedas would come out of his mouth, but the Lord, in his fish incarnation, not only would save all living entities, namely the demigods, animals, men, and great sages, but would also save the Vedas. Text 13. Kshiroda dhavam radana vayuthapana mun madnatama mrita labdhaya adi devaha prishtena kacha pava purvidhara gotram nidrakshano driparivartaka shanakanduhu. Translation. The primeval Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve as a resting place or pivot for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who while partially sleeping was experiencing an itching sensation. Purport. Although it is not in our experience, there is a milk ocean within this universe. Even the modern scientist accepts that there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of planets hovering over our heads, and each of them has different kind of climatic conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam gives much information which may not tally with our present experience. But as far as Indian sages are concerned, knowledge is received from the Vedic literatures, and the authorities accept without any hesitation that we should look through the pages of authentic book of knowledge, Shastra Chakshurvat. So we cannot deny the existence of the ocean of milk as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam unless and until we have experimentally seen all the planets hovering in space. Since such an experiment is not possible, naturally we have to accept the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is because it is so accepted by spiritual leaders like Sridhara Swami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti and others. The Vedic process is to follow in the footsteps of great authorities, and that is the only process for knowing that which is beyond our imagination. The primeval Lord, being all-powerful, can do whatever he likes, and therefore his assuming the incarnation of a tortoise or a fish for serving a particular purpose is not at all astonishing. Therefore, we should not have any hesitation whatsoever in accepting the statements of the authentic scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. The gigantic work of churning the milk ocean by the combined effort of the demigods and the demons required a gigantic resting ground or pivot for the gigantic Mandara hill. Thus, to help the attempt of the demigods and primeval Lord, the primeval Lord assumed the incarnation of a gigantic tortoise swimming in the ocean of milk. At the same time, the mountain scratched his backbone as he was partially sleeping and thus relieved his itching sensation. We will conclude our reading here today, and I'll see you all again tomorrow with the next reading. In the meantime, I wish you all a very happy, auspicious day ahead. Hare Krishna.